This is WKYT News at Noon.
Good afternoon from WKYT News. I'm Barbara Bailey. Bill Bryant is in Richmond, where the funeral for fallen Officer Daniel Ellis is just wrapping up now. Officer Ellis was shot a week ago today while investigating a robbery. He died 2 days later. Our Bill Bryant is live outside EKU's Alumni Coliseum now. He begins our top story team coverage at noon. Bill?
Barbara, this is obviously a day of profound sadness, but also a hope for healing and an opportunity for unity in Richmond, where folks have really felt this firsthand. They knew Officer Ellis, and they have known the pain since the shooting a week ago. The family and friends of Officer Ellis have been comforted by the tributes this last hour at the Alumni Coliseum here in Richmond, where an estimated 5,000 people, really from all across the country, have been here for his funeral today. Richmond Police Chief Larry Brock spoke through gripping emotion and tears, and he promised Officer Ellis's family that they will never be forgotten. Chief Brock then described how he felt about what happened as officers accompanied Ellis's body as they left the hospital last Friday.
As we left the hospital to escort Daniel to Frankfurt for the required medical exam, the skies opened up and it poured rain. It was as if the angels themselves were crying at the loss of this special young man.
The first time that we have heard from Chief Brock during this whole ordeal, and obviously a very emotional time for him. There were comforting songs, as we said. One family member sang how great thou art. WKYT's Mark Barber is here with me now, and an amazing crowd here, Mark, really. Not only the Richmond community, the outpouring of feeling and those trying to comfort this family, but from around the nation, law enforcement is feeling this.
They really are feeling this, and you could tell just how much they felt it, how deeply they cared for him and his family by when they started showing up. As soon as the sun came up this morning, Bill, officers started showing up. There are hundreds of officers here from around the state and many from out of state. Very difficult afternoon for them, many of them saying that right now they are really wrestling with their emotions.
Saying that I was brokenhearted is putting it mildly.
Hundreds of officers with heavy hearts, all from different cities and different states, but all unified by the same badge.
Doesn't matter what part of the country you're from, where you work, or who you are. As soon as you pin the badge on, you're part of that brotherhood. And when we lose a brother, we pay our respects.
It's a difficult goodbye, but they are giving a hero's farewell to their fallen brother in blue, Officer Daniel Ellis.
We had went to church together when we was young. There in Campbellsville, Kentucky, and then he at some point transferred over to Taylor County High School, and that's where we became pretty good friends.
Campbellsville police officers who knew the 33-year-old when he lived in Taylor County are pushing through their own grief to support Ellis's family. As difficult as this day is, they say they're here to comfort his family, especially his father, who was a deputy.
Yeah, it's going to be emotional, to have to look at him at this time, to talk to him under these circumstances, knowing that his son has lost his life and paid the ultimate sacrifice.
It's going to be a very emotional day, and it's going to be extremely difficult by being friends with Daniel and being close to his family.
It is a very difficult day for these officers, some of them, Bill, choking back the tears, choking back their emotion as they shared with me about their friend. They say that Officer Ellis, he did die doing what he loved. They say as long back as they can remember, he always spoke about becoming a police officer, so they say he did die doing what he loved.
And that is some comfort, certainly, to this family that has shown such grace during this whole ordeal. The chief also mentioning what a family man he was underneath that badge today. Mark Barber, thank you you very much. And after this funeral, which has now just ended, there is a 100-mile processional ahead to his final resting place in southern Kentucky. The procession begins at approximately 1 o'clock or so. It will be winding its way through Richmond, the city that he came to make his hometown and love and patrol for many years now. And then it will head down I-75. And WKYT Sean Moody is live over at the Richmond Police Department, where crowds of people are gathered there to line the processional route there at his cruiser. And he continues a top story team coverage at noon. Sean?
Hey there, Bill. You mentioned several thousand people there at EKU for the funeral. It seems like pretty much every other person who couldn't make it to EKU is now here along the side of Lexington Road right in front of the Richmond Police Department. They've got signs, they've got American flags, anything they can do to salute Officer Daniel Ellis as he makes his final run past the police department. Even before these people started lining up, his cruiser has been out here for the past couple of days. It's absolutely covered now with flowers, balloons, notes, and patches. The funeral procession will pass right in front of the police department. Ellis's cruiser has been out here on the lawn for days now, and people just keep on coming out. Several people have brought their children out. One woman said her child was just too upset to go to the visitation last night, so they decided it might be better to come out here today. One man told me he'd been out here at least 3 times because he just couldn't believe what had happened, and he said the support from the community made him feel better.
I'm just glad to see that people have opened their arms up, showed everybody what they believe in. That touches your heart. It'll bring a tear to your eye.
Now, as I said, it has really picked up out here over the past hour or so along the side of Lexington Road. It's really just bumper to bumper on the shoulder as people get ready to salute Officer Daniel Ellis as he passes by the Richmond Police Department one final time. Live in Richmond, Sean Moody, WKYT.
Sean, thank you so much. Of course, it is Richmond where people are feeling this most directly, but it is not just Richmond where people are feeling this loss in the law enforcement community. The procession will go through 5 different counties before arriving at the cemetery in the Pellyton community of Adair County. After Richmond, the processional will then be heading south on Interstate 75. In Berea, police are closing part of the overpass at exit 76 as to allow people to watch as the procession goes by. A large American flag will be hanging from the interstate bridge. Police will also be closing the southbound ramps at exit 77 and 76 as the procession goes by to stop traffic from getting onto the interstate in a show of respect there. When the procession passes by Rockcastle County High School, once it gets over toward Mount Vernon, students and staff will be standing in front of that building in a show of support there. Many of them are dressed in blue today, and the school's junior ROTC will also be there to honor Officer Ellis. The art department has a banner that they'll be displaying that they have made in tribute to him as well. Now, WKYT's Phil Pendleton will have a report from Mount Vernon. That's coming up on WKYT News in a few minutes at about 12:30. And so today, Richmond deals with this pain with a show of support for law enforcement. You can see some folks here who are waiting for the procession to begin underneath that large American flag that is supported by 2 ladder trucks from fire departments in the region. A 3-year-old boy will grow up without a father, but there are many in this community who will grow up and tell him what his father was all about and the kind of man that he was. For now, reporting live from Richmond, Bill Bryant, WKYT. Barbara, back to you.
Thank you, Bill. You can certainly feel that emotion and also that compassion and support. Well, at our weather today, it's a nice fall afternoon here in the Bluegrass. Sunny skies, mild temperatures, but showers and storms will be on the increase as we head into the nighttime hours. WKYT meteorologist Micah Harris is tracking the severe weather threat on First Alert Defender. Micah?
Yeah, we're looking at the clouds overhead right now, but even though we're still in the 50s, look at the 60s down south. They're streaming on in, whether clouds are overhead or not. Here comes some milder conditions. Rest of the afternoon is good. I mean, we're staying dry throughout the daylight hours, but heading off into the night, that's going to be a different story. Right around midnight, storms move on in, and they'll go through the overnight hours. I'll show you what you can expect out of this, when they'll be knocking on your back door coming up in a few minutes.
All right, Micah, thank you. Schools in Lexington are teaching children all about Veterans Day. Rosa Parks Elementary 5th graders invited more than 100 veterans out to take part in the school's annual Veterans Day celebration. For the educators and veterans in attendance, the hope is to teach students appreciation for history.
I hope he took an understanding of, what sacrifices people have to make, especially the veterans who go to war. And it took a lot to build this country. And I hope we don't ever lose that.
At Lexington Traditional Magnet School, the students paid respect to veterans through a tribute wall representing the heart of a veteran. The LTMS students also sent thank you cards and candy to veterans overseas as part of Operation Gratitude. There are several observances being held across the Bluegrass honoring veterans. One of the largest ceremonies is happening right now at Camp Nelson National Cemetery in Jessamine County. This year's keynote speaker is Colonel Brian Wurtzler with the Kentucky National Guard. Now, in honor of Veterans Day, many companies are offering deals to the men and women who have or are serving our country. Nearly 24 restaurants are offering free meals at participating locations, and there are a number of other ways that veterans and service members are being honored through special deals today. We have a complete list on WKYT.com. The Republican candidates for president went head-to-head for a fourth time last night in another televised debate. We'll have the highlights next on Kentucky's #1 midday news. Also ahead, GOP presidential candidate Ben Carson joins the race for Kentucky delegates. We'll explain coming up on WKYT News at noon.